Let's continue our conversation about how authors can be legally and ethically be using AI inside of their publishing business. Now, when it comes to creating your novel, we know that copyright protection says you can't copyright anything that is generated by AI, but you can be using it to world build, to create your characters' backstories. We've had conversations about that in lots and lots of videos. Make sure you check out the playlist here on the channel. Today, I want to talk about how you can be checking your world building. If you're creating a system inside of your world that is not our modern contemporary world, or maybe you can even sway it that way, you want to make sure that you're checking that you're following your own rules. For example, if you're creating a magical system inside of a fantasy world and you want to know, could this thing happen given the magical parameters? You actually have to play that out. Now we're going to use AI in order to do that. So I have come up with one that we're going to go through prompt-wise, and you can do something similar as well. We, of course, know that AI learns from what we have already told it. So if you've already told it you're an author, you don't have to say it again, but framing that and giving it a lens to look through is always helpful. So in this one, I said, I am a best-selling fiction author. I'm creating a world in my book about mermaids where everyone lives under the sea. Okay, I'm giving it information. I'm saying everybody's living under the sea. Parameter. The more parameters you can give it, the more bullet points to the world you have built that you can give it, the better it's going to be able to make a case for whether or not this one thing can happen in it. And then we're going to ask follow-up questions. I continue on by saying all mer have the ability to siren humans, but only the ones that use it for evil are considered sirens. The mer live in dwellings under the sea similar to homes on land, but their furniture is solid, usually made of rocks or coral, and lined with softer things like seaweed. They use bioluminescent creatures to see at night when it's too dark under the water. All of these things are just parts of the world building. Is it super relevant to the question I'm about to ask? No, but the more information I can give it about the world, the better it's going to do. I could go on and on and on. I could give it a bullet point list. I can tell whatever I need to tell to give it enough information to help make these choices. But then we come to the actual question. I said, knowing that these mermaids live underwater, would it be possible for a mermaid to make a cup of tea and drink it under the sea? This is one of the biggest hangups I have about people creating mermaid content. They're having them drink things under the water. Now, we know just from common sense that you can't be making a cup of tea under the water. You cannot put a pot of tea on a stove because you're not going to be able to do that under the water. You cannot have a liquid stay in a container under the water. You cannot be drinking things under the water. It's a whole vibe, but I keep seeing authors do it. It's one of my biggest hangups. So let's see what the AI has to say about this. Let's go think about this for a minute, and we're going to start asking some follow-up questions. Ho, 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 here we go, here we go. Did it just listen to me? It might have just listened to me. We're going to actually take a look at this. I'm going to scroll back up so we can see it. While mermaids living under the sea face some unique challenges compared to their counterparts on land, it is indeed possible, for a mermaid to make tea and enjoy it in underwater dwellings. However, there are a few considerations to keep in mind regarding the logistics of the situation. Heat source. The main challenge lies in the heating source to brew the tea. Since open flames are not viable underwater, an alternate heat source would be necessary. One possibility would be using a specialized device that generates heat through chemical reactions and harnessing geothermal energy from underwater vents. Okay, if you tell me that inside of your story, maybe I give you a pass. Let's keep going. Tea leaves. Mermaids would need a way to acquire tea leaves from the surface and bring them underwater. If you tell me how they do that, I might be able to give you a pass. This could involve trading with humans or having a symbiotic relationship with the creatures who can collect the leaves for them. Now, I have not seen a single person talk about this kind of stuff, but if somebody did, you could convince me to change my mind. You could potentially convince me to change my mind. Containment. Mermaids would require a suitable vessel to brew and hold the tea. Since traditional ceramic or glass cups would not be practical underwater, they could utilize containers made from sea materials like shells or hardened coral. These containers would need to be sealed to prevent the tea from diluting in the surrounding water. Guys, if some author comes in and actually gives me a logical, clear, concise path to how this could work, I can get behind this. This is the very first time I've ever seen anybody explain it. Go AI. This is the first time anybody's made a logical case for this. Drinking. Drinking tea underwater would present its own challenges. Mermaids might need specialized adaptations like airtight mouth structures or protective membranes to keep the tea from mixing with the surrounding water as they consume it. Alternatively, they could use small air pockets within their dwellings to create a temporary environment where they could drink without the tea dispersing. I have never seen somebody concisely explain how this could work. And it has changed my mind, because even in the beginning of today's conversation, I specifically said, common sense says, no, this can't work. This cannot happen because of XYZ. I talked about the heat source. I talked about the tea floating in the water and all of those things. I brought up all these points. It's like it listened to me and fixed the conversation. It has given me a clear and concise path, and I have not seen a single author who has put tea in their books address any of these things. If you were writing this story and you address these things, you will have changed my mind on whether or not this is possible. My gosh, this is amazing. AI can help you to make your case or to fix your case. And I came into this saying, this is not going to happen. You cannot do this. And it has changed my mind. And so now you can put in those parameters. You can put those things into an AI source and ask it, given these parameters, can this thing happen? Given this, can this make the case? If it makes the case, good. If it doesn't make the case, you know you can't do it, or you can be asking follow-up questions. Okay, so you have said, I can't do it because of this. What if this changed? What if this element changed? What if this was part of the world building? What if this was part of the backstory? Give it examples and let it make the case for you. If you're not sure, it can pull in information, and it may not be as concise as this. This is actually an example I've not tried before, so I'm very surprised it worked as well as it did, and it actually did the opposite of what I thought it was going to do. So you can have it make the case for you. If you're uncertain about whether or not something can happen, give it the parameters and let it make the case. Then challenge the way that it thinks. If you don't like the answer, if the answer doesn't work for you, if there's anything weird about it, challenge it. Ask the challenging questions and make it make the case for you. You can sit here and do it yourself, but my gosh, you might not be right. I made the case for why that could never, ever happen. And I had a very clear, logical thought line about that. It made perfect sense. Everyone backed me on this, except for the authors who did what I said not to do. And it was very, very clear we were all on the same page. But they changed my mind. And you can make the case one way or the other. You can change those parameters. You can challenge the way that it thinks, ask the hard questions, and then use what they've given you to ask more questions of yourself and of the AI so that you know what can and cannot happen. This is now one of my favorite ways to be using AI as an author. You know, we've talked about how you can use it to build out your world building. We've talked about how you can use it to give character backstories that aren't going to make it into your story. We've talked about how you can shape your two-dimensional side characters into three-dimensional side characters. We talked about different ways you can ethically and creatively be using this, as well as legal ways that you can be using AI inside of your business. This is now the top of my list. This is my favorite, by far, way to be using this, because it can make you a better, stronger writer, because you fed this into it and now you have feedback. Now you don't even have to rely on your critique partners or other people. You can do this as you're writing so that you have stronger writing to then give to your critique partners, your beta readers, etc. This is going to be a great way to make sure everything makes logical sense. Make the case. Ask it to make the case, and it will or it won't, but you're going to have a lot of information that you can then challenge and write better, stronger material. If you have more ideas for how you can creatively be using AI, drop those down below and stay tuned, because I'm giving you creative ways that you can be using AI to save time and effort creating your publishing business, to make sure that you're thriving in this space and this is your most profitable year ever as an author. We're dropping daily videos to help you navigate the world of marketing, writing, publishing, tools and technology that can save you time and effort, and making sure that you are staying legally protected inside of the entrepreneurial and the publishing space so that you can thrive and make it your most profitable year ever. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.